tails, one head, yin yang. Two tails, one head, yin yang. One tail, two heads, yin yang. Yin, rather, yang yin. Three tails, old yin. Two tails, one head, yin yang. Two tails, one head, yin yang. Our bottom trigram will be read as solid, solid, broken. This is dewy lake or marsh. Dewy is lake and marsh, abundant energy that teems with life. She is the impulse to communicate, share, and exchange, and delights in both inner and outer conversation. She brings things into circulation and gives them voice. This is the sheer enjoyment of participating in life to the full, expressing ourselves and hearing others and satisfying our desires. Lake is the youngest daughter, spirit of the fertile west and of autumn. The top or outer trigram will be read as broken, solid, solid. This is Xun, wind or wood. Xun is both wind and living plants. Whatever penetrates, spreads, and grows, shaping itself to the space available or shaping that space to its own nature. She is responsive flexibility, sensitively improvising and adapting. Like the wind, she can always find a way through because she never creates any resistance, and so her influence is subtle and gradual, but far-reaching. In the family of Trigrams, Xun is the eldest daughter, gentle and submissive. She belongs to the southeast and to late spring and early summer. Xun, wind or wood, above dewy lake or marsh, give us the primary hexagram of 61. And once our changing line 4 transforms from an old yin to a young yang, our top trigram will then be solid, solid, solid. This is Qian heaven. Qian is superhuman cosmic law. Enduring, he determines the nature and development of all things, from the movement of the stars to the cycle of the seasons, to causing each individual seed to grow into its own kind of plant. Heaven is creativity in its pure form, the force that drives change and what endures within it. He confronts us with truth and what it demands, both as the absolute law of nature and as the challenge of individual calling, experienced as an inner law. He is both the awareness of what to do and how to be, and also the power to act on it. Heaven is Father, found in the northwest, the realm between autumn and winter, when the buds set and seeds fall to earth. Qian heaven above dewy lake or marsh gives us hexagram 10. Is that treading? Maybe. We shall see. We will get the titles to our hexagrams from I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It's quite alchemical in nature. Our primary hexagram, 61, faithfulness in the center. Avoidance of both obsession and negligence, seeking fulfillment by becoming empty. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, 10, treading. Progress, advance of the positive, prevention of danger by caution, empowerment by calmness and trust. We will also look at the end at our secret hexagram. But this gives us enough to start with, and we will go right into the I Ching Oracle by Kibi and look at the images for 61 and 10. 61, faithfulness in the center, Kibi calls inner truth. Inner truth, inclusion, upper and lower harmony, sincerity, rituals. When people can communicate with each other not through words or theories, but through their instincts and intuition. 2 lines, third yao, fourth yao, in the middle are represented by truth. And 10, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Treading. I especially like the sleeping goddess on the tails tiger. The tails tiger. Keep it like that. All right. 10, treading. Practice, etiquette, experience, courtesy. Walking the path of practice. Don't get caught up in formality by disguising your integrity. Treat people with sincerity. I concur. Now we will look at our hexagrams through the lens of Hilary Barrett in I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. And that is a nice introductory I Ching commentary, but also quite profound. Hexagram 61, Inner Truth. When we approach the I Ching to consult the Oracle, the question we bring to it will always have the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time. Key questions. Where do you place your trust? What feels true? Oracle. Inner truth. Piglets and fishes. Good fortune. Fruitful to cross the great river. Constancy bears fruit. The old Chinese character for inner probably shows a drum mounted on a pole. It suggests centrality and balance, and also the vibrations that carry through inner space. And the character for truth shows a bird's claw over a child, suggesting the mother bird protecting her young. It also means confidence and the sincerity that inspires it. Absolute presence and concentration creating a true connection. The very present truth vibrates through you like a drumbeat. You apprehend it directly as an inner resonance. The lines of the hexagram itself show a space at the center, open to listen and resound with the intensity of experience. Piglets and fishes are symbols of wealth, plenty, and luck. They are stable foods used in humble offerings to the spirits. To receive piglets and fishes shows that you are in a state of connectedness, and can trust you will be provided for. Success in ongoing ventures, rearing your pigs, and the insight to be in the right place at the right time, placing the fishing nets, are both manifestations of your inner truth. And so it is good to commit yourself. Inner truth will naturally move you toward new landscapes, as the inner hollow of a boat would carry you across the water. You stay true to your understanding by carrying it through into action, translating the moment of insight into responsiveness as a constant way of living. Image, above the lake is the wind, inner truth. A noble one deliberates over legal proceedings and delays executions. The wind reaches and influences everywhere, always bringing new messages of change. The open surface of the lake, stirred by the wind, is constantly in motion. As the lake doesn't set hard into a final shape, so the noble one is slow to take irreversible decisions. To be true, she stays fluid and open, allowing herself to be moved by changing circumstances and new perspectives. Sequence. Inner truth follows from hexagram 60, measuring. Measuring and also trusting it, and so inner truth follows. By clearly defining agreements, measuring makes trust possible. When people share a way by measuring and understanding a mental map, they can trust one another. When the map corresponds with reality, they enjoy a trustworthy connection with the world. Pair. Inner truth is paired and contrasted with hexagram 62, small exceeding. Small exceeding steps over the line. Inner truth means trust. With inner truth, you have complete confidence. Things feel stable and dependable. Small exceeding is the opposite experience. Stepping out into the world, feeling small, exposed, and out of balance, constantly aware of the need to adapt. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 10, treading. Key questions. Where is the tiger? Do you know how to work with such power? Oracle. Treading a tiger's tail. It does not bite people, creating success. There are tigers in the outer world and also inner tigers. As you get close, it's good to recognize the tiger for what it is. Treading the tiger's tail is perilous. Yet if you can move in harmony with it, you can invite its power into your own life as protection, fertility, and blessing. To do this without getting bitten requires both skill and care. Look to the power and intensity you are drawn to in the situation. Its specific danger is there, and also its potential gift. Image. Heaven above, lake below. Treading, a noble one differentiates above and below, and makes a place for the people's aspiration. The depths of the sky are reflected in the lake as it dances below heaven. An awareness of other dimensions of reality enters inner dialogue, and this becomes aspiration. It's as natural for people to aspire as it is for the lake to reflect. By marking out the difference between above and below, a noble one shows there is a direction to travel and a distance to cross. This means differentiating the ideal you aspire to from your step-by-step progress as you follow it. Sequence. Treading follows from hexagram 9, small taming. Things are tamed, and then there are the rituals, and so treading follows. First, you learn the rules for working with great power, inwardly or outwardly, and then you can move with it more freely and harmoniously. We will now go back to our primary hexagram 61 and read our changing line, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here or at least here some places you may find yourself, takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. 61, inner truth. Changing line 4. The moon almost full. A horse's yoke mate runs away. No mistake. The light is growing. What is new and still in potential is stronger than what is old and well established. This is the cusp of change, and there is good light to travel by. A horse that has been part of a team runs away. Drawn towards greater authenticity, you separate from a companion and become free to find your own way. You leave behind whatever kept you moving in a predetermined direction, realizing that you are not required to carry on. There is no necessary connection. Even if you feel some nostalgia for what you leave behind, nothing is wrong. Next, we will look at Benabel Wen's I Ching The Oracle, which is quickly becoming one of my favorites. What's up to Benabel Wen if you're watching? 61. I love your work. Benabel Wen calls faith within. The Oracle, do not rush to judge others. Gain a deeper understanding of why they act the way they do. The answer to a difficult question is arrived at only when you are receptive to truth. On the brink of an awakening, the time for harvest is coming. You will soon manifest your full potential. There is a certain affinity between the Oracle and you. A wind blows across the lake, gentle thoughts nourish and bring joy. The image of faith is a mother bird's foot placed protectively over her fledgling. The sage deliberates on the transgressions of humankind, but delays executions. Do not rush to punish others. Respond, but do not react. Be responsive, not reactionary. To unravel the truth, first you must gain a deep understanding of why the transgressor acted. Open the heart to truth. To be superior in strength is to show mildness in punishment. Let your sense of justice be guided by that principle. The answer to a difficult question is arrived at only when you are receptive to truth. Persuading a piglet and fish, good fortune and prosperity arrive for you, favors granted. The greatest challenge to the sage is not in the persuasion of the highest members in society to be open to truth. The greatest challenge is the persuasion of the most inferior members to accept moral obligation. The greatest work of the sage is not in supporting the eminent ones in embracing truth. The greatest work is supporting the adversary in embracing truth. Fellowship is not in itself noble. The unprincipled have fellowship, but such bonds can be broken without principles. Peace and unity come not from fellowship, but from faith. The truest bonds, ones that cannot be broken, are forged when all hearts are open to truth. When all hearts are open to truth, they are united by it. Fellowship alone is not enough. There must be faith within. The sage must persuade the adversarial ones to open their hearts to truth, then unite them with the eminent ones. Auspicious to cross the great stream. Hexagram 61 expresses the forces that move people to tell the truth. A secondary implication of the revelation, persuading a piglet and fish, good fortune and prosperity, is as support for biological diversity. Hexagram 61 is the image of wind dispersing the seeds of life across the lake, the figure of the fertile womb. and our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Hexagram 10, treading the oracle. Where a tiger's tail is seen, fangs and claws are not far. A risky endeavor has the potential to bring great rewards, but do not provoke the powers that be. Conditions in the environment are intense. It could all go well to the extreme, or all go badly to the extreme. Proceed with caution. Do not aggravate that which is known to bite. Remain inoffensive, and the risks you take will pay off. A generally auspicious divinatory omen, but it shows that you are the responsible party. You are the one driving the forces, which means many either rise or fall on account of the decisions you make. High pressure, high stakes, yet the oracle assures that you are experienced and highly competent, perfectly qualified to be the responsible party. Treading on the tail of the tiger does not bite. Success. The sage can see how high the sky is above and how deep the water of the lake is below. Know the high from the low. Pick your battles. Exercise discernment. Such differences in the ranks of people correspond with their natural endowments. The distinctions among people according to their endowments is what stabilizes society. When the stronger is also irascible and easily irritated, do not aggravate the stronger. Do not provoke. May the weaker tread softly so as to avert danger. Then safety and security will be yours. The sage's foot is on the tiger's tail. Proceed with caution. Keep your footsteps light, and you will be able to tread through danger without harm. Next, we will look at Lu I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It's quite alchemical in nature. 61, our primary hexagram, Lu I-ming calls faithfulness in the center. Faithfulness in the center is auspicious when it reaches even pigs and fish. It is beneficial to cross great rivers. It is beneficial to be correct. Explanation. Faithfulness is truthfulness. Faithfulness in the center means truthfulness is within. The body of the hexagram has 4 yangs outside and 2 yins inside. Open inside, solid outside. Openness and solidity balance each other. Inside and outside correspond. Also, the qualities of the hexagram are inner joy and outer accord. Traversing the path with joyful accord, not obsessed and not astray. It is therefore called faithfulness in the center. This hexagram represents seeking fulfillment by being empty. It follows on the previous hexagram, dispersal. In dispersal, yang is trapped by yin. Yin sneaks in and yang gradually dissolves. If you want yin not to trap yang, but to accord with yang, so that yin and yang conjoin, this is impossible unless you are seriously faithful of the Tao, to the Tao. Without faithfulness to the Tao, practice is insubstantial and lacks power, inevitably leading to failure to complete what has been started. But if the mind is faithful and united, and thought is pure and true, myriad ruminations cease and sincerity within reaches outward, so that one can genuinely carry on true practice, leading from lowliness to exaltation, from shallowness to depth, gradually enabling one to reach the state of profound attainment and self-realization. Spiritual alchemy, the science of the gold elixir, uses the yellow woman as the go-between for yin and yang. The yellow woman is true intent. Faithfulness in the center is truthfulness in the center. Truthfulness is associated with earth, which is called the yellow woman. With the yellow woman in the center, it is possible to harmonize yin and yang, to communicate with self and others, to respond to myriad things. There is nothing that cannot be influenced. Therefore, faithfulness in the center is auspicious when it reaches even pigs and fish. Pigs and fish represent those without knowledge. When truthfulness can influence them, those without knowledge can harmonize themselves. How much the more so those with knowledge? If practitioners of Tao can apply the truthfulness that influences even pigs and fish to cultivation of essence and life, they will not fail to produce good results. However, if faithfulness can be carried out in ease but not adversity, that faithfulness is not real and will surely crumble in the end. Even if one is faithful in this way, it does not bode well. There are people who believe in the Tao, and there are those who believe in the Tao and practice it regularly when all is well and comfortable. But there are hardly any who forget themselves for the Tao and do not lose control in situations of great difficulty and stress, when there are great obstacles, when things are topsy-turvy and in a shambles, and it is difficult to bear up patiently. If one can remain unmoved and unperturbed in situations that are hard to endure, can go on through and get out, this alone is faithfulness that can move pigs and fish. This is why it is beneficial to cross great rivers, for faithfulness in the center to bode well. Great rivers represent most hazardous places, adverse situations. If one can cross over adverse situations, needless to say, one can cross over favorable situations. When able to pass through both favorable and adverse situations, that faithfulness is beneficial and auspicious wherever it goes. However, the 72 aberrant schools with their 3,600 deviant practices all cling to voidness or stick to forms. These are not studies that can fulfill our nature, and lead to the meaning of life. The false distorts the real. The aberrant adulterates the correct. If you have faith without discriminating the false and real, the aberrant and correct, this is incorrect faithfulness, which is not beneficial and does not lead to good results. Therefore, faithfulness is only beneficial if it is correct. Correct faith and correct practice meet with good results, unhindered in adversity or ease, entering from striving into non-striving, thereby perfecting essence and life, completing beginning and end. Of this one can be sure. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 10, treading. Even when they tread on a tiger's tail, it doesn't bite people. This is developmental. Explanation. Treading means forward progress. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is heaven, strong, and below is lake, joyous. Yin is rejoicing in yang. With the advance of one yin, the hexagram will change into pure yang. Representing this, it is therefore called treading. This hexagram symbolizes progression of yang and prevention of danger. It follows on the preceding hexagram, accord. In accord, yin follows yang, but if you want yin to follow, it is necessary first to advance yang. When the progression of yang reaches proper balance, yin naturally follows it. This is the appropriate priority of the path of advancing yang. The true yang in people is inherent and need not be sought from another. When it mixes with acquired conditioning, true feeling is obscured and arbitrary feelings arise. Then true yang runs away outside. This is likened to a tiger running off and staying elsewhere as a member of another house. Though it is in another house, originally the tiger is one's own. It is just that people are not willing to call it back. The way of calling it back is not sought in heaven or earth or fire or water, but only in lake. Lake as the youngest daughter in the so-called temporal arrangements of the trigrams are associated with members of a family. Heaven is father, earth is mother, thunder is eldest son, wind is eldest daughter, water is middle son, fire is middle daughter, mountain is youngest son, and lake is youngest daughter. Lake, as the youngest daughter, travels the path of receptive submission in place of Mother Earth and is able to revert to Yang by the culmination of Yin. Its nature is harmonious and joyous. Being harmonious, it can relax. Being joyous, it can trust. Being relaxed, it can go gradually. Trusting, it can endure long. Able to relax and trust, powerful practice unrelenting, it is thereby possible to advance to the stage of indestructible firmness and strength, to again see the original face of heaven, and not be injured by false yin and false yang. This is likened to treading on a tiger's tail without its biting people, and having a way of development and growth. A tiger is something that bites people. It is most dangerous to tread on it. If one can tread with harmony and joyfulness without excessive ferocity, it is like treading on a tiger's tail. If one is careful, as if treading on a tiger's tail, looking ahead and behind, striking a balance without obsession or indifference, proceeding gradually in an orderly manner, forestalling danger, aware of perils, carrying out the firing process without error, then the yin can be transmuted into yang, and the yang can be restored to purity. Not only is one not bitten by the tiger, one can even take over the living energy in its killing and preserve life and being whole. This path of development and achievement without obstruction or hindrance through advancement of yang, treading strongly with harmony and joy, is of great benefit. I'll be right back. Give me just a second. Did we bring these here? Next, we will look at our changing line in Hexagram 61, Faithfulness in the Center. Changing line 4, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here some places you may find yourself. Takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Hexagram 61. Faithfulness in the Center, changing line 4. The moon approaches fullness. The pair of horses is gone. No fault. But I'm in the middle of a reading. No, thank you. Close the door, please. Love you. Explanation. In the space where above is yang and below is yin, yielding yet remaining upright, following the yang and not the yin, is like the moon approaches fullness. The pair of horses is gone. The human body is pure yin with no yang. Just as the moon has no light of its own, it must borrow the gift of another before it can produce the elixir. Just as the moon borrows the light of the sun. At the time of the new moon, it meets with the sun, and moonlight arises in the first 3 days of the lunar month. On the 15th, when it faces the sun, its light is round and full. This is yin following yang. On the 16th, one yin subtly arises and increases until the 30th, when the moon turns away from the sun and has no light at all. This is yin turning away from yang. The science of the gold elixir begins with yin seeking yang to return to pure heaven. This is like the moon approaching fullness. Having used yang to repel yin so as to transmute the temperament and constitution is like a pair of horses having gone. Following the yang to eliminate the yin, a precious pearl hangs in space, round and bright, clean and bare, illumining everything. Nothing can deceive it. So what fault could there still be that would not disappear? This is the faithfulness of weakness seeking strength. We'll also look at the commentary section for each of our hexagrams, which is a little bit more alchemical sometimes, focused. Keeping in mind that the changing line we just read is the most focused part of the reading. Hexagram 61, truthfulness within, that's what it's called here in the commentary section. Wind above, lake below. There is wind above a lake, with truthfulness between them. Thus, superior people consider judgments and postpone execution. Truthfulness within means there is sincerity in the center. Above is wind, below is lake. There is wind above a lake. The form of a lake is facing upward. The nature of wind is penetrating. Wind blows on the lake receives the wind, as though there is feeling between them. This is the image of truthfulness within. What superior people see in this is that adjudication of criminal cases concerns people's nature and life, and if there is any carelessness, the innocent are harmed. Therefore, after a conviction is established, they do not immediately carry out the sentence. Even if the crime is unpardonable, they still postpone execution and reconsider the case, seeking a way of life in the midst of death. Practitioners of the Tao search out the recondite and find out the hidden, fish out the profound and reach the remote, so as to thoroughly investigate the abstruse and subtle truth. This requires genuine knowledge and clear vision, without the slightest trace of confusion in the mind. In this sense, it is like adjudication of criminal cases. When one understands truth in the mind and puts it into actual practice, the mind dies and the spirit comes to life. Gradually cultivating this without seeking immediate results is like postponing execution. Consideration is whereby life is sought in the midst of death, freeing the innocent and condemning the guilty, enlivening what should be alive and killing what should be dead. If consideration is not thoroughgoing, one has no independent perception, and one does not have too much self-confidence. How could it be appropriate to kill rashly? Postponement means reconsideration of whether or not death is appropriate. Inasmuch as the way of life is perforce difficult, the way of death is not easy either. If one does not postpone death, but rather hastens death, hoping for quick accomplishment, one may become a nihilistic quietist. So it is a matter of death after consideration, and then reconsideration at the time of death, whether it is right or wrong, true or false. Only when this is perfectly clear in one's mind will one avoid the mistake of taking the spurious for the genuine. In the image of the hexagram, above is wind, representing gradual advance, while below is lake, representing harmonious and youthful action, or joyful action. Gradualism means one can avoid haste. Harmony means one can be considerate. With consideration and relaxation, truthfulness within being put into practice outwardly, an all-out effort will dissolve away all the pollution of conditioning and expose the primordial original being, so that one will surely reach the realm of eternal life. And 10, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 10, treading heaven above, lake below. Above is the sky, below is a lake, treading. Thus do superior people distinguish above and below and settle the will of the people. Treading means progressive ascent. Above is heaven, below is lake. The sky covers the lake. The lake looks up to the sky, so above and below have fixed positions which cannot be mixed up. This is the image of treading. What superior people see in this is that the metaphysical is called the Tao and the physical is called the vessel. There is a distinction between the greater and lesser, a difference between the noble and the base. The higher is not to be considered lower, and the lower is not to be considered higher. The greater is not to be considered lesser. The lesser is not to be considered greater. The noble is not to be considered base. The base is not to be considered noble. This is whereby to distinguish above and below and settle the will of the people, not allowing transgression through false ideas. The celestial is the ruler. This is higher, above. The earthly is the citizenry. This is lower, below. When one can distinguish the higher and lower, then right and wrong, sanity and aberration are clear, not doing anything inappropriate, sustaining the celestial and controlling the earthly, cultivating the real and dissolving the false, thoughts not arising inwardly, external things not entering the mind, myriad things are all empty of absoluteness, and all mundane feelings involved with objects are settled. In the body of the hexagram, lake is the mundane, representing arbitrary feelings. Heaven is the celestial, representing true sense. When the mundane treads under the celestial and the celestial treads on top of the mundane, then arbitrary feelings do not arise and true sense is always present. True sense is unemotional sense. Using unemotional sense to control feelings is like a cat catching a mouse, like boiling water being poured on snow. In a short time, calamity turns to fortune. The will of the people is settled, and there is nothing to thwart the Tao. Then one gradually puts into practice the pure, unadulterated vitality of firm strength in proper balance. But settling the will of the people is all a matter of being able to distinguish the higher and the lower. The stability attained will be in a proportion to the degree to which this distinction is successfully made. If there is any lack of clarity in this distinction, there will be that much instability. Therefore, the sage's science of fulfillment of nature in comprehension of life requires thorough investigation of principle as the first step. Next, we will look at James de Corn's take on our hexagrams and then get the secret hexagram from I Ching The Oracle. James de Corn's Gnostic Book of Changes is a synthesis of several I Ching commentaries with his summation at the end of each. He's also put quotes in from Carl Jung, the Kabbalah, things from Gnosticism, all kinds of interesting things, psychological stuff. He's a practitioner of the Tao himself. I'm not sure if I said that. 61, he calls inner truth. Other titles might be the symbol of central sincerity, inward confidence, inner truthfulness, sincerity, centering, conforming, central return, faithfulness in the center, sincerity in the center, insight, understanding, the psyche. A quote from D.F. Hook, take the middle road and avoid extremes. Judgment leg, inner truth moves even pigs and fish and leads to good fortune. There will be advantage in crossing the great stream. There will be advantage in being firm and correct. Ritsuma/Karcher, centering, conforming, hog, fish, significant. Harvesting, wading the great river, harvesting trial. Hogfish, yu, aquatic mammals, porpoise, dolphin, intelligent aquatic animals whose development parallels the human, sign of abundance and good luck. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of the relation between your inner core and the circumstances of your life. It emphasizes that bringing your central concerns and your life situation into a sincere and reliable accord is the adequate way to handle it. The image, leg, wood on a marsh, the image of inner truth, The superior man deliberates about cases of litigation and delays the infliction of death. Lu. The wind over the lake symbolizes inner truthfulness. The superior man judges criminals and postpones capital punishment. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. Inner truth shows two magnetic lines occupying the innermost part of the hexagram with dynamic lines in the centers of the trigrams. We see the attributes of cheerfulness and flexible penetration. Sincerity, thus symbolized, reaches even to pigs and fishes and will transform the country. We see one riding on the symbol of wood, which forms an empty boat. Hence, it is advantageous to cross the great stream. The virtue of inner truth requires firm correctness and shows the proper response of man to heaven. Leg. Inner truth denotes the highest quality of man, giving its possessor the power to prevail with spiritual beings, with other men, and with lower creatures. There are two magnetic lines in the center and two dynamic lines above and below them. The magnetic lines represent the heart and mind free from all preoccupation, without any consciousness of self. The two dynamic lines immediately above and below them are each in the center of their respective trigram and denote the solid virtue of one so free from selfishness. The trigram of wood above the trigram for a lake or marsh suggests a boat crossing the great stream. The pigs and fishes symbolize the rudest and most obstinate of men. Cheng Tzu observes, "We have in the sincerity shown in the upper trigram superiors condescending to those below them in accordance with their peculiarities, and we have in that of the lower those below delighted to follow their superiors. The combination of these two things leads to the transformation of the country and state." Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. It is a great accomplishment when inner truth alters archetypal forces within the psyche. The ego's devotion to the work is the means to this end. The superior man carefully differentiates his options and avoids drastic measures. Can sometimes mean don't act until you are sure of all the facts. Anyone who monitors his dreams and other images knows that the unconscious is a continuous wellspring of psychic energy. Jung has observed that we are probably dreaming all of the time. The only reason we don't usually notice this is because the conscious mind is so powerful that the more subtle manifestations of the psyche are eclipsed. Since consciousness consists of only the upper layers of a deep continuum of awareness, it is obvious that we are being continuously created from within. The ultimate source of our being is not easily accessible, but all of the empirical evidence points to a self which transcends the space-time continuum, i.e., lives in another dimension. A quote from Jung in Letters. The capacity to nullify space and time must somehow inhere in the psyche. Or, to put it another way, the psyche does not exist wholly in time and space. It is very probable that only what we call consciousness is contained in space and time, and that the rest of the psyche, the unconscious, exists in a state of relative spacelessness and timelessness. This seemingly exotic concept was written by Jung in 1939, yet today the theories of the quantum physicists are approaching the point where awareness itself will be recognized as space-time transcendent. A quote from Paul Davies in Superforce. In the modern Kaluza-Klein theory, all the forces of nature, not merely gravity, are treated as manifestations of space-time structure. What we normally call gravity is a warp in the four space-time dimensions of our perceptions, while the other forces are reduced to higher dimensional space warps. All the forces of nature are revealed as nothing more than hidden geometry at work. There is a deep compulsion to believe in the idea that the entire universe, including all the apparently concrete matter that assails our senses, is in reality only a frolic of convoluted nothingness. That in the end, the world will turn out to be a sculpture of pure emptiness, a self-organized void. The physicists now hypothesize an 11-dimensional universe and state that the 7 extra dimensions are somehow rolled up to a very small size so that they are not apparent to our senses. If we are going to hypothesize such fantastic realms, it is more elegant to hypothesize consciousness itself as emanating from an extra-dimensional source. This is the pleroma of the Gnostics and alchemists, the upper and lower worlds of shamanism, or in Jungian parlance, the objective psyche or collective unconscious. The familiar space-time of our conscious experience consists of 3 linear dimensions plus time. Time is considered a dimension, but not like the other 3. One can go up, down, forward, and backward, to the left or right at will, but one cannot go back to this morning or forward to next Thursday afternoon. The time dimension is a continuous now, and we experience it and the other 3 dimensions from the reference point of consciousness. We are the center from which all dimensions radiate. Consciousness is like time in that it is always now, and since consciousness emerges from within a continuous and autonomous flow, we can legitimately hypothesize that we emanate from a power source in another dimension. We are a kind of continuous explosion from within, a microcosmic version of the Big Bang, which originated the universe and which, incidentally, is still exploding, expanding outward into space. A quote from Elizabeth Hayek in Initiation: "If everything that is recognizable is so only because it has separated itself from the all and nothingness, leaving its complementary half behind in the unmanifested state, then the earth too must have its complementary half in the unmanifested state. And the force of gravitation it exerts on all the creatures and objects living on it is the striving for reunification between the earth and its unmanifested complementary half, which has been left behind in the void as its negative reflection. The earth's gravitational pull thus draws all the earth towards the void which stands beyond time and space, in order to bring about this reunion. If the earth were to yield, all the earth and everything on it would disappear into the center, into the void. But that would be a return to the paradisiacal unity. Paradisiacal unity. I don't know how to say that. To God, to bliss. The image of the hexagram inner truth gives us the idea of an empty center, as good an image as could be devised from the structural components of the trigrams to show the inner source of human consciousness. The pigs and fishes of the judgment are the archetypal complexes which must be tamed through the process of the work, and to cross the great stream with firm correctness is to accomplish this holy task." A quote from D. Fortune in The Esoteric Philosophy of Love and Marriage: "Through all ages men have sought and some have found there is a door through which we can pass out onto the higher planes, but that door is within the soul. It is an enlargement of consciousness whereby we perceive these things to which we have hitherto been blind, and from such perception comes the sense of reality, which is lacking while we perceive nothing but appearances. Whoso has this wider vision is freed from the limitations of the 5 physical senses. His memory extends back beyond birth, and his hopes go far forward beyond death. Having all aspects of his own nature harmoniously developed, he is at one with all aspects of the universe. Nothing is alien to him, and no form of existence is hostile. The path of life is open before him, and he treads it with joy." Next, we will look at our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 10, cautious advance. Other titles might be treading, conduct, the symbol of stepping carefully, proper conduct, cautious treading, proceeding cautiously, watch your step, proceed at your own risk, advancing with care, and a quote from D.F. Hook illustrates the difference between courage and foolhardiness. Judgment leg. Cautious advance suggests the idea of one treading on the tail of a tiger, which does not bite him. There will be progress and success. Wilhelm/Bain's treading. Treading upon the tail of the tiger, it does not bite the man. Success. For the weak to take a stand against the strong is not dangerous here, because it happens in good humor and without presumption, so that the strong man is not irritated, but takes it all in good part. Such simplicity and unpretentiousness is faith derived from reality, neither from love of happiness nor fear of unhappiness, but free of fear and hope. The concern here is with the art of action by means of proper conduct and presupposes being childlike in its highest sense. Blofeld, though he treads upon the tiger's tail, it does not bite him success. The general idea of this hexagram is that success can be won, but that the situation is dangerous enough to require extreme caution. The tiger may not bite, but on the other hand, as lines 3 and 5 demonstrate, we cannot be certain of this. To consort with rulers and people in high places may be most beneficial, but should we fail to please, they may make us regret our temerity. Lu, treading, stepping on the tail of a tiger, but it does not bite one. Success. You should act only after you have planned carefully and then with resolution. Ritzema/Karcher, this hexagram describes your situation in terms of finding and making your way. It emphasizes that doing this step by step is the adequate way to handle it. The image leg. The image of the sky above and below it the waters of a marsh form cautious advance. The superior man, in accordance with this, discriminates between high and low and gives settlement to the aims of the people. Wilhelm/Baines, heaven above, the lake below, the image of treading. Thus, the superior man discriminates between high and low and thereby fortifies the thinking of the people. Thus, the superior man creates in society the differences in rank that correspond with differences in natural endowment, and in this way fortifies the thinking of the people, who are reassured when these differences accord with nature. We see a universe moved from within, without external manipulation. Since the universe is also within the human being, internal universal order leads to order without by the force of necessary differentiation. Cf. The ideal society in Plato's Republic. Commentary. Confucius/like, in cautious advance we have the symbol of weakness treading on that of strength. The lower trigram indicates pleasure and satisfaction and responds to the upper, indicating strength. Hence it is said, he treads on the tail of a tiger. The fifth line is dynamic in the center and in his correct place. He occupies the God-given position and falls into no distress or failure. His action will be brilliant. Leg. Cautious advance is made up of the lower trigram of pleased satisfaction or naivete and the upper trigram of heaven or primal power. Being situated below the great symbol of strength, naivete is seen to be stepping on a tiger's tail. To emerge unscathed from such a danger depends entirely upon propriety and a strict observance of all the rules of correct behavior. On these, as so many stepping stones, one may tread safely amid scenes of disorder and peril. The symbol of weakness, according to Wang Shentzu, is the third line, which is urged on by the two lines below it to encounter the three strong lines above. Other commentators say that the whole trigram, partaking of the yin nature, is the symbol of weakness, and the entire upper trigram is symbolic of strength. The Chen Chung editors say that to get the full meaning, we must hold both views. Zhang Tzu says of the image, the sky above and a marsh lying below it is true in nature and reason, and so should be the rules of propriety on which men tread. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. A cautious advance in the face of potentially volatile conditions will lead to safety. The superior man orders his priorities realistically and gets a grip on himself. Cautious advance depicts the lower trigram of the joyful youngest daughter stepping on the heels of the upper trigram of heaven, the stern paterfamilias, Yahweh Sabaoth, or Zeus, with his thunderbolt. In her innocence, she doesn't realize the danger of her action. This is treading on the tail of the tiger, and the hexagram teaches us how to do this without being bitten. The original judgment suggests that superior powers realize the innocent intent of the action and may be inclined to be lenient. A quote from Goethe, "You should not resist fate, nor need you escape it. If you go to meet it, it will guide you pleasantly." Wilhelm's notes on the image illustrate the undemocratic truth that although all men are created equal in the eyes of God, every human being possesses clearly differentiated strengths, weaknesses, talents, and incapacities. In lectures on the I Ching, he says, "The secret of proper conduct is in inequality. Uniformity alone cannot give rise to proper conduct. To be sure, uniformity might produce rule and regulation, or law and force, but tedious force and brutal law never led people to convictions that legitimately resulted in proper conduct. The term includes that which produces proper conduct and proper conduct achieved. Instead, as Confucius said, force produces only alienation, and people transgress secretly that which is public regulation. Cautious advance often images a test situation, or it can be a warning that you are walking on the edge of a precipice. The image of the Fool in the tarot deck has similar associations. Without changing lines, this hexagram implies a need for extreme caution, or that your actions are tempting fate. A quote from J. Blofeld in the Tantric Mysticism of Tibet: "The passions, instead of having to be painfully exterminated, are yoked like snarling tigers to the adept's carriage. The dangers of such a course are obvious. As one of my Lama teachers put it, while you were traveling in that cart, a tumble would have done you little harm. Now I have given you an airplane. Don't crash in flames." Next, we will look at our changing line 4 in our primary hexagram 61, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself, takes precedence over all other elements, and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. How can the work be done? Hexagram 61, changing line 4. Leg. The fourth line magnetic shows its subject like the moon nearly full, and like a horse pulling a chariot whose fellow disappears. There will be no error. Sloughnessy. The moon is past full. The horse will necessarily be lost. There is no trouble. Commentary. Let's read this one. Cleary 2. The moon is almost full. When the horse's mate disappears, there is no fault. Woo. The moon is almost full. One horse of a pair is lost. No blame. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. She breaks with her former companions and mounts upward. Wilhelm/Baines. It separates from its kind and turns upward. Blofeld. The straying of the horse signifies rising above those of our own kind. Ritzimal/Karcher. Cutting off the above, sorting indeed. Cleary 2. The horse's mate disappearing means breaking with peers to go higher. Woo. He forsakes the company of his own kind for the sake of service to the one above. Leg. Line 4 is magnetic and in her correct place. She has discarded her correlate first line and hastens on to the confidence of the ruler in line 5, who is symbolized as the nearly full moon. The symbol of the horse whose fellow has disappeared has reference to the discarding of the first line. Wilhelm/Baines. The team horse is the 6 in the third place. But the fact that there is similarity in kind has no determining effect. The line is correct in its place and has a receiving relationship to the ruler of the hexagram, the 9 in the 5th place, whom it serves as minister. Notes and paraphrases, Sue. The man is humble and respectful in receiving enlightenment from superior quarters. He is like the team horse which follows the straight course without having to look at its mate. Wing. Turn your attention to a superior person or a noble ideal and attempt to gain insight into this power. In responding to a larger goal, you may leave others behind. This is not a mistake. Editor. According to Wilhelm, line 3, the drum beating, sobbing and singing inferior man is here symbolized as the team horse, who is abandoned. Not line 1, Leg. This transfer of horsepower is psychic energy which forsakes its former pursuits to seek illumination or enlightenment The message is the abandonment of futile ways to focus on inner truth. Leave the cycles of weeping and singing to those who are still enamored of them. The waxing moon is an increasing brightness, which, because it is associated with the ruler, symbolizes a source of wisdom. The proper ego/self relationship is implied. A quote from Plato in Phaedo. And what is purification but the separation of the soul from the body? As I was saying before, the habit of the soul gathering and collecting herself into herself from all sides out of the body, the dwelling in her own place alone, as in another life, so also in this, as far as she can, the release of the soul from the chains of the body? Question mark. James Acorn breaks changing line 4 down into one possible succinct definition. You are getting the idea. Abandon illusion and ascend toward truth. The only freedom lies within. Now we will look at our secret hexagram, which is the hidden influence in the situation, or the energy behind things. To get the secret hexagram, we will, for the bottom trigram, look at lines 2, 3, and 4 in our primary hexagram. So it would be read as solid, broken, broken. This is Zen thunder. And we don't need to read them in that. And then the 3rd, 4th, and 5th lines in our supporting hexagram. So then it would be broken, solid, solid. What was that? That was Xun, wind, or wood. So Xun, wind, or wood above Zen thunder. Yeah. $42. Let me just look at this, make sure. Solid, broken, broken, and then broken, solid, solid. Yep. 42 it is. So we will look in Lu I-ming's Taoist I Ching. I said 42, right? I think so. To see what the title of that is. And then we will read it in Benabel Wen's I Ching The Oracle. 42. Yep, that's it. 42 is increase. Entering the Tao gradually, without either rushing or lagging, increasing the positive while decreasing the negative. All right. 42 in Benabel Wen's I Ching The Oracle for our secret hexagram, the influence behind the situation. She calls 42 burgeoning or burgeoning, never known how to say that, the oracle, a state of increase and expansion. Opportunities come knocking. As you gain, ensure that others gain. What you receive, you must give. That is the only way to ensure further increase and ascent. Time is of the essence in the matter. Your window of opportunity will not remain open for long. The time for increase and ascent is now. Accept the challenge, rise to the occasion. Never lose your kindness. You know you are aligned with heaven's will when what you seek for yourself will in turn benefit the collective and achieve a greater good. Thunder incites a new development and wind disperses it, giving it momentum, a state of increase and expansion. The image of burgeoning is a vessel with water overflowing. A sage learns honor from the honorable and honor from the corrupt. Learn beneficence from the beneficent and beneficence from the malicious. Here's the translation of this oft-quoted proverb. When sages see the good of others, they are inspired to be better. When they see the fault of others, they correct that fault in themselves. Auspicious to cross the great stream. Heed those words, and the gods will bless you with ever-increasing and overflowing prosperity. Yi is a symbol for the prosperous and ever-continuing flow of growth, gains, benefits, profit, and affluence. Now we will get a randomly card-drawn chapter from the Tao Te Ching while we sum up the reading. Our primary hexagram, Faithfulness in the center, has Xun Winder Wood above Dewy Lake or Marsh. Already got the chapter. Just have to fiddle with this thing to keep myself occupied. 29 is what we got, in case you want to read ahead. So, with that being said, let's take a look at what Benabel Wen says about faithfulness in the center as our primary hexagram. Faith within, the oracle, do not rush to judge others, gain a deeper understanding of why they act the way they do. The answer to a difficult question is arrived at only when you are receptive to truth. On the brink of an awakening, the time for harvest is coming. You will soon manifest your full potential. There is a certain affinity between the oracle and you. A wind blows across the lake. Gentle thoughts nourish and bring joy. The image of faith is a mother bird's foot placed protectively over her fledgling. The sage deliberates on the transgressions of humankind, but delays executions. Do not rush to punish others. Respond, but do not react. Be responsive, not reactionary. To unravel the truth, first you must gain a deep understanding of why the transgressor acted. Open the heart to truth. To be superior in strength is to show mildness in punishment. Let your sense of justice be guided by that principle. The answer to a difficult question is arrived at only when you are receptive to the truth. Persuading a piglet and fish, good fortune and prosperity arrive for you, favors granted. The greatest challenge to the sage is not in the persuasion of the highest members in society to be open to truth. The greatest challenge is the persuasion of the most inferior members to accept moral obligation. The greatest work of the sage is not in supporting the eminent ones in embracing truth. The greatest work is supporting the adversary in embracing truth. Fellowship is not in itself noble. The unprincipled have fellowship, but such bonds can be broken without principles. Peace and unity come not from fellowship, but from faith. The truest bonds, ones that cannot be broken, are forged when all hearts are open to truth. When all hearts are open to truth, they are united by it. Fellowship alone is not enough. There must be faith within. The sage must persuade the adversarial ones to open their hearts to truth, then unite them with the eminent ones. Auspicious to cross the great stream. In our secret hexagram, it said auspicious to cross the great stream as well. And both our primary hexagram 61 and our supporting hexagram 10 talked about a litigation of sorts, or finding the high and differentiating that between the low. Differentiating between high and low. So like making judgments. And in Liu I-ming's Taoist teaching in the commentary section of 61, he says some interesting things about thus. If I do recall. Truthfulness within. Let's see. What superior people see in this is that adjudication of criminal cases concerns people's nature and life, and if there is any carelessness, the innocent are harmed. Therefore, after a conviction is established, they do not immediately carry out the sentence. Even if the crime is unpardonable, they still postpone execution and reconsider the case, seeking a way of life in the midst of death. Practitioners of the Tao search out the recondite and find out the hidden, fish out the profound and reach the remote, so as to thoroughly investigate the abstruse and subtle truth. This requires genuine knowledge and clear vision, without the slightest trace of confusion in the mind. In this sense, it is like adjudication of criminal cases. When one understands truth in the mind and puts it into actual practice, the mind dies and the spirit comes to life. Gradually cultivating this without seeking immediate results is like postponing execution. Consideration is whereby life is sought in the midst of death, freeing the innocent and condemning the guilty, enlivening what should be alive and killing what should be dead. If consideration is not thoroughgoing, one has no independent perception and one does not have too much self-confidence. How could it be appropriate to kill rashly? Postponement means reconsideration of whether or not a death is appropriate. Inasmuch as the way of life is perforce difficult, the way of death is not easy either. If one does not postpone death, but rather hastens death, hoping for quick accomplishment, one may become a nihilistic quietist. So it is a matter of death after consideration, and then reconsideration at the time of death, whether it is right or wrong, true or false. Only when this is perfectly clear in one's mind will one avoid the mistake of taking the spurious for the genuine. In the image of the hexagram above is wind, representing gradual advance, while below is lake, representing harmonious and joyful action. Gradualism means one can avoid haste. Harmony means one can be considerate. With consideration and relaxation, truthfulness within being put into practice outwardly, an all-out effort will dissolve away all the pollution of conditioning and expose the primordial original being, so that one will surely reach the realm of eternal life. Being careful is the underlying concern in our supporting hexagram 10, treading. Treading a tiger's tail is perilous, and you need to be sure that you're acting accordingly when doing so. So our supporting hexagram puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Treading in Benabel Wen's I Ching The Oracle. Where a tiger's tail is seen, fangs and claws are not far. A risky endeavor has the potential to bring great rewards, but do not provoke the powers that be. Conditions in the environment are intense. It could all go well to the extreme, or all go badly to the extreme. Proceed with caution. Do not aggravate that which is known to bite. Remain inoffensive, and the risks you take will pay off. A generally auspicious divinatory omen, but it shows that you are the responsible party. You are the one driving the forces, which means many either rise or fall on account of the decisions you make. High pressures, high stakes, yet the oracle assures that you are experienced and highly competent, perfectly qualified to be the responsible party. Treading on the tail of the tiger does not bite, success. The sage can see how high the sky is above and how deep the water of the lake is below. Know the high from the low, pick your battles, exercise discernment. Such differences in the ranks of people correspond with their natural endowments. The distinctions among people according to their endowments is what stabilizes society. When the stronger is also irascible and easily irritated, do not aggravate the stronger. Do not provoke. May the weaker tread softly so as to avert danger. Then safety and security will be yours. The sage's foot is on the tiger's tail. Proceed with caution. Keep your footsteps light, and you will be able to tread through danger without harm. In James de Corn, it talked about how you could use the power of the tiger to your advantage if you're careful and do so correctly. The Changing line, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here some places you may find yourself, takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 of Hexagram 61, Faith Within. Fourth line, it says, a waxing moon is near full, a horse's mate has gone astray, no harm is caused by the fault. An awakening is about to take place. The time for harvest is coming. You will soon manifest your full potential. In doing so, others may be left behind. Your position right now can be likened to a waxing gibbous moon phase. You are about to enter the full moon phase of the matter. In matters pertaining to career, you are trusted and respected by those in power. It's a good opportunity to seek advancement or promotion. Whether you'll get it is another story altogether. Given that the fourth line doesn't explicitly forecast a favorable outcome, it forecasts no harm or fault sustained from the outcome. However, in matters pertaining to love and romance, the fourth line is less encouraging. In response to such an inquiry, the fourth line simply urges you to arrive at a decision soon and act upon it. The oracle refrains from telling you what to do, only telling you to make the decision. There is no error in the sacrifice. At this time, seek counsel from one who is in a superior position. Through that counsel, a path to success will be illuminated. Such advice is delineated in the fourth position yin line moving toward the fifth position yang line. P could mean a mate, someone's counterpart, an equal match, an adversary, an opponent, or a spouse. The term is also used to indicate the power or force generated by running horses. Wang could mean to perish, to have become deceased, to lose, or to have become lost. Here the translation is reduced in severity to astray. Is a reference to something you had that you now do not have, something that has fled or slipped away from your reach. So it was a mated pair of horses where they're pulling a cart, I think, or they're running together in front of a chariot or something, and one gets away, but there's no mistake. Let's read it in Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future, the changing line. Changing line 4, the moon almost full, a horse's yoke mate runs away, no mistake. The light is growing. What is new and still in potential is stronger than what is old and well established. This is the cusp of change, and there is good light to travel by. A horse that has been part of a team runs away, drawn towards greater authenticity. You separate from a companion and become free to find your own way. You leave behind whatever kept you moving in a predetermined direction, realizing that you are not required to carry on. There is no necessary connection. Even if you feel some nostalgia for what you leave behind, nothing is wrong. So, you might be in a situation where you are having to leave something behind and move towards influencing the higher and even the lower, or the pigs and fish, known or thought of as like the lesser people or whatever in the situation, the lesser influences or the more base psychic influences. These in our supporting hexagram, it talked about trying to seek balance for all involved. And then you're also adjudicating or litigating between the higher and the lower. And you don't want to have any judgment that is overly strict. You want to prolong judgment to make sure that you're not executing criminals unfairly or anything, that you cut the sentence down to the lowest possible severity. And then our secret hexagram behind the entire situation, again, is 42, which is very auspicious. Burgeoning, And this is the hidden influence behind the situation, or the power behind it, the hidden forces. The oracle, a state of increase and expansion. Opportunities come knocking. As you gain, ensure that others gain. What you receive, you must give. That is the only way to ensure further increase and ascent. Time is of the essence in the matter. Your window of opportunity will not remain open for long. The time for increase and ascent is now. Accept the challenge. Rise to the occasion. Never lose your kindness. You know you are aligned with heaven's will when what you seek for yourself will in turn benefit the collective and achieve a greater good. Thunder incites a new development and wind disperses it, giving it momentum, a state of increase and expansion. The image of burgeoning is a vessel with water overflowing. A sage learns honor from the honorable and honor from the corrupt. Learn beneficence from the beneficent and beneficence from the malicious. Here's the translation of this oft-quoted proverb. When sages see the good of others, they are inspired to be better. When they see the fault of others, they correct that fault in themselves. Auspicious to cross the great stream. Heed those words, and the gods will bless you with ever-increasing and overflowing prosperity. Yi is a symbol for the prosperous and ever-continuing flow of growth, gains, benefits, profit, and affluence. So, in our primary hexagram, it talked about auspicious to cross the great stream or the great river as well. And in our secret hexagram, it's saying that we need to act, that the window of opportunity might be closing, and it also says it's auspicious to cross the great river. So a crossing of the great river, an ascent is occurring, and the changing line in 61 for James de Corn's Gnostic Book of Changes, he breaks it down to one succinct definition, and he says, you are getting the idea. Abandon illusion and ascend toward truth. The only freedom lies within. Now we will read from two different versions of the Tao Te Ching. 29. The first is going to be from Benjamin Hoff, The Eternal Tao Te Ching, assuming that he has 29 in here, and he does. Sacred vessel, if you possess a desire to take hold of the world and manage it, I see that you will not get what you wanted. The world is a sacred vessel. You will not get away with tampering with it. Whoever tampers with it will ruin it. Whoever grasps it will lose it. Therefore the wise discard the excessive, discard the extravagant, discard the extreme. Also in our Tao Te Ching, translated by Jia Fu Fang in English, 29, a little bit more poetic possibly. Do you think you can take over the universe and improve it? I do not believe it can be done. The universe is sacred. You cannot improve it. If you try to change it, you will ruin it. If you try to hold it, you will lose it. So sometimes things are ahead and sometimes they are behind. Sometimes breathing is hard, sometimes it comes easily. Sometimes there is strength and sometimes weakness. Sometimes one is up and sometimes down. Therefore the sage avoids extremes, excesses, and complacency. This is an apple wand. Apple has the association with Venus, and I find apple to be one of my absolute favorite wands. I believe Venus in Vedic association is associated with the heart chakra. That connection can probably be made from any perspective.